Okay, well, I'll start probably. I'm
Okay,
just
cool.
gonna go. I'm gonna read my spiel, introduce you a little bit. You'll talk a little bit about yourself. Again, just a refresher, your start, your career, your schooling, all that kind of stuff. We'll read your statement for the project, and then we'll kind of get into some specifics.
All right, sounds
So
good, Darren.
for anyone who doesn't know, my name is Darren. I'm the artist residency coordinator here at SPAO. I'm also the gallery manager at SPAO. So this is really where my expertise kind of aligns and marries very beautifully, because right now we have the exhibition I Don't Know How to Connect to You, which features our two artists in residence from, excuse me, last year. So the SPAO residency, just quickly kind of throw that out there. It provides mentorship, support, structure for professional artists looking to focus on the next level of their practice. So this could be anything from like one specific project and just like running with it. I need help with this one thing. I have this one goal in mind. I want to go for it. Or it could be like, I want to develop I really want to dive into alternative processes and I really want to experiment and play and work with that. And that's totally what we're kind of interested in, is that kind of space and time and kind of area for you to explore. It's a 6-month residency, which is fairly long in terms of residencies. It's probably one of the most unique of its kind in that not only do you get the space and an opportunity for exhibition, but you also get mentorship sessions. So up to you, you can meet with me 2 hours every week or not, whatever you have to work on. And we work on anything from artist statements or project statements or, some grants or, cold calling or exhibition writing, any of those kind of admin things. And then at the end of the week, you have like a 4-hour group lab session, and that works on print quality, and that's with our Director of Education, Michael Tardioli. And he works with you on kind of print quality, and he works with you on kind of critique and kind of pushing and kind of playing and kind of leads a bit of a round table. So that's the artist residency in a nutshell. It is self-directed, so you can come in and say, this week I'm working on this, and next week I'm working on this, and the next week I'm working on this, or you can come in and have a huge plan kind of already laid in place. The ability is for you to kind of let us help you get to the next level you want to be at. So like I mentioned before, if you complete the residency, you're offered an opportunity to exhibit at the SPAO Gallery. It's a kind of a big boosting point. The SPAO Gallery is one of the only, I think the only independent photo gallery in the area. We only have 7 exhibitions a year, and those exhibitions see hundreds of people, if not thousands. It's a little bit different now in COVID, but the online, we're trying very hard to push or to get these exhibitions online as well. So if you ever can't come in or you ever kind of feeling like you're missing something, you can always visit the digital exhibition. And in this case, it's spao.ca/connect-2-u. And that's kind of plastered all over our website. You'll be able to find that pretty easily. I will say about the residency space is filling up very quickly, actually. So we're already booking into 2021. So if you're thinking about the residency, you have questions, you're not sure about the application, definitely send me an email, because we are already planning again into 2021. I really have a hard time believing it, but here we are. So the exhibition, I Don't Know How to Connect to You, it opened a couple weeks ago, and it's running until November 1st. It features Elizabeth Raymer Griffin as well as Alyssa Enriquez. And it, lost my place. Oh yeah, you can see it in person. We are open Wednesday to Sunday, 12 to 5. It's 4 people in the gallery. You have to wear your mask, you have to sanitize, you have to contact trace, but we are still open. There's no interactive components, so we're following Ontario, Ottawa, federal guidelines. If any of that changes, it'll be closed. But if you don't get in to see it, the website component will live on. So it'll be up, presumably, for the foreseeable future, the next ever. And that has exhibition installation views, it has project statements, it has links to the website, so you can connect with the artist that way. And that's kind of our two sides. So the exhibition, it's a little bit, it's 2 very different artists working in very different ways and presenting very different ways. But one artist searches kind of outwards towards the land, towards the ice, towards the environment, and the other one kind of searches inward towards personal intuition. But each artist kind of describes their experience throughout the artist residency here in Ottawa, kind of what happened throughout the last year and a bit. And then it also defies this kind of pandemic that really interrupted their residency. I mean, it really, really hindered that kind of connection to the community a little bit and to the space specifically. But I think it's one of those things where like this is what can happen when you power through and you really focus on your work and you take the time during the pandemic or in quarantine to kind of play and figure things out and still kind of push through almost if you can. It's a plea to find your practice, find your community, find yourself, you know, despite having Instagram Live and websites and a plethora of, you know, kind of messaging apps that are handled, there's still something kind of missing. And I think art is that kind of crucial point. You kind of almost have to see it. You have to kind of really connect to artists. You really have to find your community here. It's not enough to just be practicing. I think now more than ever, you really need to find those like-minded people so that you can have those conversations. You can see and be inspired by beautiful work. I think now it's very, very important. So just as an aside, so Elizabeth's part of the project is Orange Averse, and it features 9 expertly crafted light boxes with film negatives and positives collaged on top. You can kind of see a couple behind me. When she applied to the residency, I was kind of like, what is the project about? What is going on? So I kind of dug into her website, kind of dug into everything, and I was like, oh wow, she knows her stuff. She knows what's going on. Look at this cool work. There's no one here at SPAO is doing anything like this right now. So it's like, this is the first sort of thing, and we're just going to trust that it's like going to be fantastic. I think we quickly realized her like wealth of expertise in alternative processes. She's made daguerreotypes, bromoil, palladium, zone plate, color zone plate, and like so many more. I mean, her background and like wealth of what she can do is just incredible. And then, you know, kind of the diploma students got to know her a little bit too. And if you haven't noticed already, you're very bubbly. She's very like animated, and a lot of people started falling in love with you. So I think you're very quickly becoming a part of the community. I think, you know, hopefully we'll have you on board for more guest speaking, more, you know, whatever part-time classes or what have you. So I mentioned before the work, it's not something we've seen before. It's very kind of inspired by that German Bauhaus kind of design level aesthetics we've talked about. It's very experimental, and I think we'll talk a little bit about that as we go on. I did want to plug, before I pass it on to you, that you are member and I think co-founder of 44.4, collective of arts leaders and mothers in Ottawa, which I've heard through the grapevine is kind of planning some interesting things coming up.
Yes.
So anyone on here, definitely go out and check out 44.4. I think it's a very, very, very great initiative and super cool.
And look for some weird election signs on the side of the road.
Is that okay? Yeah. So you're like ready to talk about it? Yeah. So
no,
I think
not completely, but just look for it.
Yeah.
You'll know it when you see it.
So let's pass it on. So let's why don't you introduce yourself a little bit, talk a little bit about
Well, I'm Elizabeth. I came into SPAO residency a little bit late. I think I came in like January. Yeah. So kind of the shit hit the fan as I was kind of like getting into it. Yeah. But SPAO is an amazing facility, amazing people. I really look forward to being there in person again because it's just like a lovely place. I moved to Canada about a little over 3 years ago, and I moved to my neighborhood so I could be near the SPAO school. What I didn't know is that you were changing locations as I was deciding my rentals. Yep. So I have an art studio in Byward, and I live just 5 minutes from Byward because I wanted to be close to this school. When I did the research before I moved here, you were the place that I wanted to be part of. So I'm really, really excited to be showing there. It's a perfect time in my life to be doing this. So I come from more of an academic background. So I'm not a professional artist yet. I'd like to be, but I taught for over 10 years at Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh and some other schools in that area. And I loved teaching. Like that's when I went into photography, I quickly became like a teacher's assistant. And I guess the Canadian term would be keener. Is that correct? um, and
That's
so
fantastic. Yeah.
I really like I loved just like soaking up all that knowledge and being right next to them and listening to all of the feedback they were giving, whether it was technical or conceptual. And then marrying those two things together is super important. So from the time I was about 19, that I was like a teacher's assistant, and then when I went to graduate school, I went to a school that had a teaching program. So it was 3 years long, and I was on fellowship there. So I was able to teach while I was there. So really, I did the art thing and I got really serious about my art. But the goal at the end of it was to teach and make work on the side. I taught, but I didn't make a whole lot of work on the side. I really, really threw myself into the teaching, and it really, really takes a lot out of you.
Yeah, it's hard to find that balance between work in the arts and your own practice,
Absolutely.
It's really tough. Teaching especially, you go into it, there's so many questions, you really have to know your stuff, and then you come home and
Yes.
you're like, oh, I saw you have to work with this, and you put a lot of
Right.
pressure. I think teachers here especially put a lot of pressure on themselves to make like high caliber because they're
Yes.
critiquing and everything. Yeah, it's a tough
Yeah.
balance
But
to
I
find.
loved it because I was like a little bit artist. I'm really into craft, so I was really excited to be in the dark room with these students that like they had to put their phones away, they had to put their computers away, and they were just like dipping their hands in these chemicals and getting all messy and talking to each other and like just like having an amazing time. So I just really like I still miss it and love it, and that was a huge part of my life. But it's very good to put that aside for a bit when I moved here, and I said, Elizabeth, you really need to get back into your practice. And so applying for this residency was like just the ticket. Like it was perfect. So even though COVID hit, it didn't really matter because I already had everything I needed in place. I have been here 3 years. So I knew how to navigate and what I needed to do to pivot and make it work. And I'm used to kind of making things in a vacuum. So it kind of ended up that way a little bit. It would have been so nice to have this like critiqued and, and like edited in a way. But I think it, like, I'm very proud of it because I think it's one of the best things I've ever done. And I feel very, very proud of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you really showed like, okay, despite everything going on in the world, when you kind of just set yourself up for success to begin with, you get your studio ready, you kind of have your product in mind, you kind of go for it. I think that's,
Yeah.
something that you did so successfully. I mean, it really is incredible. Like people walk in and they are drawn immediately to these, like, first of all, the presentation is not something we've seen before. Second of all, the kind of images themselves, third of all, the project idea is very cool. Like it's just yes, I think it's incredibly successful, and we just keep going crazy over it here at staff, and there's people coming in. We had about 4 or 5 people come in today, and they're like, what, this is how, tell me about this, you know what I mean? It's just strangers coming in with masks on, and I don't know who's coming in, and, it's like, tell me about this, what's going on here? So yeah.
Well, so I shoot mainly large format, and 4x5 is just kind of my sweet spot. Like I like that size. So I shot these all 4x5 color transparencies, and then had them developed in Montreal, and then sent back to me. And then I also shot a lot of the same scenes in black and white because I was in that beginning period where I was playing and not quite sure where the project was going to go. I knew the concept, which is weird because I don't usually work that way. I tend to like play and then the concept comes out of that more. But this I knew because of the title is Orange Adverse, which I know adverse is not a word. But the first time I heard it or read it, that's what it said to me, because ad just means bad. And so like for me, like, so that's why it's at AD/VERC. But yeah, it was it was interesting because I thought, okay, I wanted to push myself and you know, scan these and work more digitally because this is my weakness. I am an analog photographer, very much darkroom, antiquarian, avant-garde, old 19th century stuff. Like that's what I love. I like the smell. I like how many steps there are to get from the beginning to the end. I like how much it can get fucked up and like you have no idea what happened. And like it's just all such a surprise, and like the magic of it is like all in the analog for me. So I thought I pushed myself, but then like COVID hit and it was like, Elizabeth, like you don't really have that, you don't have that capability as much anymore like you could. So I was laying, you know, these negatives and positives out on the light box. And for me, that's like such a beautiful moment where I'm seeing the images for the first time. I'm taking them out of the box and I'm laying them on this light box and they're illuminated. And it's just gorgeous, you know? It's the same way I feel like when I go under the cloak and like I see, you know, through the viewfinder of the 4x5, it's, you know, beautiful frosted glass, and like there's just something about the color and the light that happens. I wanted the presentation actually to sort of mirror that feeling of me laying these down on these light boxes and then seeing them for the first time. So they're kind of on top of each other, kind of cattywampus, like, and they're so hard to photograph. So it's really, really hard to like see it this way because they get so blown out, you know, but like you'll have to, if you're in town, come and see it. You know, but we also have photographs of them on the gallery site. So, so that's sort of like, I wanted it to be oddly very simple. And I think people look at it and think it's really complicated. And it's actually like not complicated. Like it just simply wanted that feeling of these images being illuminated. And so I have no love for the digital print when it comes to my work. I just kind of go, meh, you know, when I see them. But this, when they lit up and these LED panels that I had fabricated are so bright that it just like glowed. And I was like, yes, like I was very, very excited about it. Great.
There's two things there. I mean, first of all, I think a couple of the students took away this idea. So, you know, in the arts world, we're kind of trained a little bit that we develop a project idea, we kind of play with the project idea, we apply for grants, we apply for exhibitions, and we follow one project all the way through, and it starts with the idea and it comes outwards. There is also the other way of like playing first and seeing what comes out of that. And it was introduced to me a little bit, but even in my kind of undergrad, postgrad, it was all project first, concept first, this. But the other way that you kind of work, which is really inspiring, is that you can just like play with the camera, like have fun, see what comes out of it, and then kind of analyze it a little bit afterwards, or kind of like, why was I doing this? What was coming out of this? You know, why does this? So I'm playing, I'm experimenting. Why does this work? Why doesn't this work? You know, I think that it's a bit of a longer kind of practice way, but it's something that we don't see very often.
Yeah, I mean, it's very childlike. And I would say like self-portraiture tends to fall more into that more like play. And I just want to lock myself in a room with no one else there. And I want to play my music super freaking loud. And I want to put on little costumes, you know, like it's very much like dress up. Although I do feel like I have diverged a bit with this project because I'm not so costumed. I am more myself in these photos than I have ever been. So that to me is like a huge departure, and I'm like really excited about that. But it's still playful.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's still very playful. It reminds me of Dada, you know, the Dadaist before the Surrealist. You're also looking at like, in a way, it's a bit more vulnerable than some of your other work, where there feels like a distance. This, I very much know it's you, and I very much know it's you doing these kind of like forms. Like, it comes from a very interesting place and kind of presents itself as very more honest, or not more, but like very kind of like close. Like I feel very close to you when I look at this. Yeah.
good, because
Yeah.
I was like also feeling that, and
Yeah.
like just wanted to, I was hoping that, especially if people knew my work from the past, that would come across, because that's the goal, is I want to get closer and closer to not having any of that weird facade.
Mm-hmm.
And there was something beautiful about what I did, but it's nice that like I can see it changing and building, and it's mirroring what's happening in my actual life. And so that is really cool to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing, of course, we have to talk about the presentation. A lot of times photographers, it's about the image, and then you either print it and frame it, or, that kind of is always secondary. And for this work, it's really like, people are talking about the presentation just as much as the content. And I think that that's
Yeah.
really unique. So you had this idea to make these light boxes, but you didn't want the bulbs showing as traditional light boxes. You also didn't want those like thick, heavy 6-inch things coming off the wall, So what did you do? Like, you just described that process of like having this idea of presentation and trying to find someone to help you with it.
Yeah. Yeah, because I'm not a builder. I'm not like, it's not like I can fabricate things like that. But I do tend to always want to show things in a way that's way more difficult than just making a print and putting it in a frame. Always. Like almost everything I show is harder to get up on a wall. My last project I didn't even make prints really. It was just meant to be seen on the screen, because I was photographing the ground glass of a 16 by 20 camera with a digital camera. And so you got sort of that grainy, low res like effect from that, just photographing the glass. And whenever I printed it, I was like, this is not at all, like, it's not glowing. Like, it needs to, like, there needs to be light flowing through this, and it's not. So I never even bothered to print it. But yeah, so this one, like I said, I wanted it seemed so simple, like I just need light boxes. But then it wasn't. So I did find a person in Ontario who makes big LED panels for like movie theaters. So to like show the backlit film, of the movie posters. And so when I contacted him, like, he ignored me many times. Like, he was like, I do not want to deal with this. And I fully understood his issue, but I was like, I need this done. How can this get done? So he's like, I will try. So he's like, this is the smallest thing the panel I've ever made. Like, and he sent it to me, and it was like a little rough around the edges. Like, when I took it to the framer, they were like, I don't know how I'm going to frame this. I'm like, well, we're going to figure it out. So I worked with Framed on Bank Street, and they were fantastic. Highly recommend. And they routed out, they made the frames, and they routed out the sides so that the panels would fit. They created notches so that the cord could come out. And like, just gorgeous. Like, it just was like it was like the perfect solution. So yeah, I mean, it's not that complicated, but it was.
Yeah.
And expensive.
Yes. I mean, innovation isn't cheap, I would say.
No.
Like
No. So yeah, it
yeah.
was, but I'm very happy with them, and think they're very beautiful.
And you should be. They really are. So do we want to talk about the project itself? Like, did you want to? We can read your statement a little bit. We can.
Sure.
Yeah. Do you want to do that?
Yeah. Why don't you? Yeah. Do you mind?
Not at all. No, I got it.
Okay.
I got it here. So Orange Averse. This is the artist statement. It's a very, you're going to hear a dramatic reading by me. Get your coffee, get your drink ready.
I got my bourbon.
The sealed box of quick load Fuji transparency film was abandoned in a donation box in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It was October 2015 when I snatched the curious 5x5 by 11 rectangular green box and stored it in an oversized Tupperware to live with where all the other boxes of unexposed expired film I had no particular plan for. The free 20 pieces of film made the cut when Donald Trump was elected, and I donated the upside-down American flag that hung from my balcony and all my photographic chemicals that wouldn't be able to immigrate with me to Ottawa, Canada. I said goodbye to my fulfilling, low-paying adjunct position at Carnegie Mellon University and all the other familiar aspects that made Pittsburgh my home for the last decade. The box was 15 years expired, but full of possibility. A few minutes ago, while settling into my new Ottawa studio, I sliced the expiration sticker seal and pulled a piece of preloaded film. I slid the long, elongated slide into my holder and then into the camera back. I pulled an army green Canada Boy Scout uniform over my head and grabbed the only orange thing in my room, part of my lunch, a perfect mandarin orange with one green leaf still firmly attached, and held it up to my right glass's lens. Why? I suppose I like to test my color film with something orange. When I was packing, donating, and gifting my belongings in 2017, I got a message from social media from an acquaintance who said, you know, I heard you were moving, thought maybe I could buy some of your furniture for my real estate staging company. There were things we had to let go of. Our mid-century modern house had a built-in bar with 3 stools that I bought at a flea market for $100. But on weekend evenings, me and my husband and son used to make root beer floats and fancy champagne flutes and sit on those bar stools, making the only sounds one makes when devouring a root beer float. I sent the acquaintance pictures of these stools, realizing we were a couple weeks away from the arrival of the moving truck, and the stools couldn't stay, and there was no built-in bar awaiting us in Ontario. The stools were speckled dark orange pleather. In the iPhone photograph, you could see thrown out of focus our blood orange couch in the background of the photograph. She responded within seconds, no thanks, I'm Orange Averse. What, Orange Averse? Or is it Orange Adverse? Adverse? I often will have the phrase on repeat like an earworm without music. The phrase perseverates. The only thing my young son cried over when he left the U.S. were his orange bar stools. He had been conceived and born in Pittsburgh. His grandparents lived 4 doors down. He was growing up on the exact one-way street his father grew up on, yet it was the orange stools that what stung the most. He sobbed as the nice lady stacked them into her minivan, and I've since closed the social media profile that caused Orange Averse-related anxiety. I've told this story to other artists, painters in particular, laugh at how ridiculous it is. Hating a whole color, we poke fun, entertaining the idea that is indeed a real affliction listed on WebMD. Orange Averse is a terrible eye disorder that only affects women, so there is no money for research to find a cure, of course. It can be a terminal diagnosis unless you're one of the lucky ones that is Orange Adverse versus Averse, in which case it's an allergy that presents itself as a migraine inducer followed by hours of vomiting, hallucinations, and vertigo. Orange, the silent killer. If you are Orange Adverse and feel a seizure coming on, be sure to cover one eye and look away. When I think about why I left the United States, for whatever reason, I associate it with the phrase Orange Averse. Orange is about high visibility, attracting the attention of its surroundings. It is loud, think, detour, yield, caution sign, amber alert, get out, keep out, prisoners. I see the horrors of Agent Orange, fear, caustic chemicals, harm, explosions, toxic fumes, and the orange level of homeland security, high risk of terrorist attacks. It's the color of potassium dichromate before I mix it with ferric ammonium citrate under the orange glow of darkroom safe light. Arsenic and turmeric, all the shades of orange that are called saffron, Krishna, vitamin C, pixie sticks, and slushies. 1980s era NASA spacesuits and life-saving devices like the one thrown to me after our sailboat capsized in Lake Michigan when I was 5. I see psychedelics, poppies, autumn leaves, pumpkins, and Halloween, or if you prefer, All Saints' Eve. Orange is associated with heat, joy, and sunshine. It's yellow and red, cadmium, vermilion, persimmon, rust. It's the shock of, I lost my spot. It's the shock of hair on the prepubescent boys' heads that walk past my house every morning at 8:42, who I believe holds secret knowledge. The royal family of the Netherlands belong to the House of Orange. Red squirrels are actually orange. The color represents enthusiasm, fascination, amusement, happiness, creativity, and determination. In heraldry, orange indicates strength and endurance. Lust is read as orange in literature, and orange trees are a symbol of love. Nacho trees, tang, the Utah landscape, and my living room couch. I conjure the pre-Raphaelites, Impressionists, and Post-Impressionists in their quest to capture the color of natural light. The orange fruit has individual juice-filled vesicles that are sweet, bitter, and tangy. Common blood. I ate one for the first time in Pompeii, Valencia, Bergamot, Clementine, and of course the mandarin. When those fruits are not yet ready to pick, they are the green of my sealed box of Fuji Chrome Provia 100F. In optics, orange is the color seen by the eye when looking at light with a wavelength between approximately 585 to 620 nm. It is a hue of 30 degrees in HSV color space. It's tertiary, not primary. I shot 6 pieces of film that day and sent them to a photo lab in Montreal for processing. Of the 6, 1 image turned out, 5 blank, 1 perfect. In Confucianism, orange is the color of transition. So I just, that's not your typical artist statement, but I just want to talk about the, first of all, you're giving us this sweeping narrative of coming to Ottawa, of that whole transition of orange being this color that kind of followed you. You throw back to when you were 5 and you have this orange kind of life vest. It's this kind of personal history of one color that I find very fascinating. And then you punctuate it with now moments, what is orange now? What does it mean to us now? I think it's such a unique way of writing a project statement or an artist statement that, I think is very special. I kind of wanted to read it a little bit, but do you want to just expand a little bit on the kind of thoughts and feelings and kind of the project itself? And while I take a drink of water after reading,
yeah, you should, because that's a lot.
Yeah.
I should have read it. I'm sorry. I really like stream of consciousness kind of thing. So when I wrote it sort of stream of consciousness. And is this what I used to apply to the residency too? Like I had written this already or no?
It was like pared down. It was like a pared down version of this.
Okay. Yeah, because I thought they're going to think I'm really crazy. Something, because it isn't something, it's not how I was taught how to write an artist statement. Yeah. It's not. Yeah. And I guess at this point in my life, I'm just I don't care, these were the things that were important to me. These images, if I could make films, I think I would, I probably could, I don't know. But when I read those things, I see them. And so, I don't know. I can't really explain it very well.
That's okay. That's okay. I like the idea of stream of consciousness tied in with your ability to experiment and play. And I think it shows that the kind of connection in that you're not limiting yourself. When you're playing and you're experimenting, sometimes we'll censor ourselves to such a degree. But when we write in this way or we play in the same way, I think it works really well together.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's how I stay healthy. It's it's like my religion in a way. It's, this is how I get the stuff out and make sense of all this stuff that's in here. So it is very stream of consciousness. It's all bits and pieces from all over my life. And that's all of my work is really like that. So I just thought, well, I'll just start writing how confusing the imagery is pretty confusing. So I will also just pair that with something, but it's truthful. There's nothing not truthful about it. There's no art speak in it. There's no, it's all just feeling. And that's the point.
Yep. Yeah. And that's something that, especially in photography, we look at it and think, okay, what's the point? What are we trying to say? And with your work a little bit, I take more time and I'm looking at my colleague said it the best. It's of photography. I look at form, I look at design, I look at the way it's shifting. You mirror things a lot, which creates this sense of repetition. And because it's almost collage, coming from a musical background, I see these kind of notes play on the board. So I forget where I was going with that.
I like that.
But the thing of it was, coming from this kind of design, German Bauhausy kind of background from Philadelphia, and kind of brought it up a little bit in kind of conceptualism. I find it very refreshing, I guess it would be a good word. Like it is about something, but the something isn't necessarily about external means. It's about you as a person, you as an artist. It's very internal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which can be hard to express in words or
Yeah.
live Instagram video, for example.
Exactly.
But they are like, I do describe it all as like, they're almost like private performances that I happen to have documentation of. And like, it's not my favorite part to show it to anyone else. Like, I honestly, my favorite part is making it and seeing it and making sense of all of it. And then the afterthought for me is what other people will think. And then when I'm in that headspace, oh God, you know,
Yeah.
like I have to actually show this to somebody. I mean, it's my diary.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
cringe.
There's such a, you know, an artist has such a, oh my God, this is amazing. And then, oh my God, I'm so insecure about it. Like every artist that I know is
Oh,
always so
sure.
like that play between like, oh my gosh, I really like this, but oh my God, now I have to show it and to put it out there, especially if you're a commercial working artist and be like, oh, it's not selling, but why isn't it selling? Or, you
Yeah.
know, or why are they using that image to promote it, not this one? It's like such a back and forth with yourself to be
Yeah.
like on these highs and lows. But
Yeah. To
yeah,
make something and kind of give it away in that way is really
yeah,
difficult. Yeah.
yeah. It becomes almost not your own experience anymore. It becomes a
Totally.
very, you know, inter experience.
Yeah.
So if anybody watching has questions, feel free to write them in the chat. My colleague Marisa put some questions down that she had for you. So during
Awesome.
your Instagram takeover, you paraphrased American photographer Anne Hamilton, who talks
Mm.
about making not knowing. You
Mm-hmm.
mentioned how often you enter into your studio without knowing what you'll be making. Can you talk a little bit about your inspiration with Anne, or maybe how you enter your day? So you walk into your studio and you're like, hey, where do I start? You know, can you talk about
Yeah.
either of those kind of things? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's a word.
Orange. Yeah.
Perseverate was one of
Persephone.
them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, or orange, yeah.
Yeah.
Or a color. Like sometimes it's a color. Sometimes it's something I find, like an object or something I can put on. I think I pull a lot from fashion photography in a lot of ways. And so really the costume was always really important. And now I have more, I don't even know if you call them costumes. It's like armor or something
Yeah.
in the new ones. They're more object and they look like they're really attached to like my body in a weird way instead of me just wearing something. So like, for example, I have like a pair of men's like swim shorts that are orange that I've turned inside out, and it has that like netting, you know, to like hold all the bits in.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I put oranges like in the pockets of the netting, and like I don't know why. Like I really couldn't tell you why I thought that was a good idea, but
Yeah.
when I saw it on film, I was like, that's amazing. Like I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I often turn the things I'm wearing inside out, which like probably most people probably don't notice it in the shots, but I do it on purpose because I am talking about internal things, intrinsic things, talking about the inside out. So often that's the first reason why I will turn something inside out. But I have to say, those are my favorite objects that I've put on my body that I've turned inside out and then done something bizarre with, and I love
Yeah.
it.
For me, it was the ones that you had on your arms and shin. I thought they were first flutter boards, like when you're learning to swim, that you had those foamy flutter, but they're not quite. They're like hard
No.
plastic almost, like armor-esque. It looks very
Yeah.
much like armor. Yeah.
So those are something for my son.
Yeah.
They're called sled legs.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. I don't know either. Like you just put them on your legs and you can go down the hill like on your knees
Yeah.
rather than being in a toboggan or a
Cool.
sled.
Oh.
But they've never fit him. Like it's never really worked out. They've just like been in the house. And they're awesome. They're perfect for that photograph. I
They
know.
work really well, and that image is one of my favorites. Speaking of, do you have a favorite image? Like, do you have a favorite kind of piece that can show
Well,
off?
I do love the double of the ribbons and then me walking past it, like the image you used for
Oh,
the
yes, yes,
vinyl
yes,
poster. Like that was the
yes,
first one.
yes.
So, well, one of the first ones. So I do love that one. Um, but I started to really enjoy when I was doing more panoramic stuff. So if you want to go to the sled leg, since you like that one, I really do like that one too. But yeah, yeah, they're the sled legs.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I've had people in the gallery comment a lot on this one. It feels like
Yeah.
an after event, like an event that never happened,
Yeah.
but kind of also did at the same time.
Yeah.
And,
It's like
and
a lackluster celebration. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then this one's my personal favorite.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's just for me, it's pure aesthetic, it's color, it's form, it's this project of experimentation. I actually really quite like that one.
Yeah.
So someone asked what music you listen to while you're making work. What do you jam out to? What do you are you a classical person? Are you Pixies
No.
punk rock person? What do you?
Yes.
Yeah,
Pixies. Or yes.
yeah,
Nice call. Good call. Like Kate LeBon, like rocker sort of chicks.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Um, I'm getting into Pavement because I missed that as an adolescent. So I have on the record player Pavement right now.
Okay.
I don't know how I missed Pavement, but this was my favorite album of the year. Is this Steve Malkmus album?
Okay.
Traditional techniques. Um, I love this year. I love Jonathan Richman.
Okay.
He's very, very happy. And he's all about like having the right music for a party, and like it's like he's a dream come true. Like that's the party I want. Like I
Yeah.
want his party. I want his like 1960s version of a party. And yeah, I know. I listen to a lot of music, a lot of different music.
Cool. Someone asked your thoughts on Nan Golden, who took very kind of like in the moment, and
Yeah.
I didn't catch the other artist, but yeah. Any thoughts on? Do you see any correlation? Do you see any inspiration
Well,
that way? Yeah.
absolutely. So, like early on when I was in school, I remember my first color class, which is like photography 2 at that point, where we were working in analog color. So we're shooting 35 millimeter color film, usually negative film, like Nan did, and she also did transparency. But I was told in the assignment to copy an image and do it perfectly.
Yeah.
And I picked Nan Golden, and I picked the photograph where this young woman is sitting on a bed and she's in a blue chiffon gown. And then there's a young man on her lap, and she's they're both looking directly at the camera. I would have to say the directness, like the way I usually make eye contact with the camera, definitely came, from looking at that type of work. Documentary work scares the crap out of me. I've never been able to photograph other people. I just feels like wrong. And I'm bad at it, terrible at it, which is why I couldn't really be a commercial photographer. But yes, Nan Golden very early on was like very influential. Yeah. Yeah.
Deanne Arbus was the other artist who
Oh, I
kind of
love Deanne Arbus.
intentionally skews, intentionally makes odd.
Yeah.
Yeah, how do you feel?
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, she didn't make them do
No.
anything.
Yes. Yeah.
So like, see, this is the stuff, man. Like the documentary stuff is so hard for me because I feel really guilty if I were to put anyone else on display the way I put myself on display. So I've never understood how they could do it, but I was always really fascinated with it. And I'm clearly like kind of a voyeur, so like I dig that stuff.
Yeah.
But I can't do that with other people.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you know yourself, right? Like, I think that's
Yeah.
such a hard part about, I see students leave, the diploma students, and they struggle going from school to their own practice because you have to know
Yes.
yourself so well. Like, what do you like to do? What are you good at? What are you
Yeah.
comfortable with? What do you want to keep going with? You have
Yeah.
to
You have
kind
to
of,
take a lot of risks
yeah,
too, Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. And I think like the other one is people bring up a lot is Cindy Sherman. Um, and honestly, like I loved her early on. And then as I got more conceptual in my work, I liked her a lot less. And she never talks about what any of it means.
yeah,
And like it's so weird and over the top, but she's able to like keep it all at an arm's length. And like for me, I'm just like it blows my mind, like it. But maybe again, she keeps it for herself, and
yeah.
doesn't reveal that. But it always kind of irked me when she was just sort of very like, about everything. And I'm like, anyway,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. That's a good point. Is that it's arm's length. Right now she's doing all those like on Instagram, all those like crazy morphed faces, but
yes,
it's so far. What am I looking at? You don't feel that kind of closest that I would with your work
yeah,
here. So I
yeah.
kind of see that disconnect. Okay, another question. When you're designing the sets, costumes, do you build them looking through the camera or just by looking at it and then kind of setting up the camera?
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Um, this this project, some of the images have some complicated stuff going on in the background. So yeah,
yeah.
sometimes I'll like do the set where I'll have the object in mind,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So like yeah, like that one. So like I picked up a bunch of cardboard, on the side of the road, and then bought some orange tape, and then like made made like a sculpture. And then at first I just photographed the sculpture, and I was like, I'm not even going to be in this one because it's just so like I just like the tape and the cardboard. And then I added myself in as sort of a afterthought. But yeah, so sometimes it's the background that comes first, and sometimes it's physically what I have on is the object, right? So yeah, and I'll often set something up in my studio and leave it there for months, and then just like live with it and like figure out what I'm gonna do with it and hang it in such a way that's interesting. Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah.
I just got a notification from Instagram. There's only 1 minute remaining.
Okay, that's fine.
We did have a couple other questions, but I just wanted to, before we go, plug if you guys want to see the exhibition Wednesday to Sunday, 12 to 5. If you can't come in, you're worried about COVID, check out our online portion or online exhibition part of it, spao.ca/connect-2-u. I'm getting lots of people saying no.
I
Well,
know.
we could try it again in a second, but I just wanted to plug that really quickly in case I get booted off. Also, too, feel free to reach out to Elizabeth. You can check out her website, which I believe is eraymer.com. Hold on, let me bring it up. Is that right?
If
Raymer
you
Griffin. It's
Yeah.
raymergriffin.com. Yeah. So you can always reach out to her that way. Ask questions. You can send me an email at gallery@spao.ca. I'm very curious what's going to happen in about 10 seconds. We'll try it again, going back live to answer a few questions, but it might be one of those things where we just get booted
Okay.
off for an hour. But thank you so much for
Yeah,
coming.
that was awesome.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
Okay.
I think it's
Yeah.
a little. Is that all right? The
I
light
didn't
might be
realize
too much.
I didn't realize there was a 1 hour
Oh
cutoff.
yeah.
Yeah. So now I
Neither did
know.
I.
Now we know. We'll wait a few seconds, but I
Yeah.
actually hadn't written down the questions there. But Olivia, I know that you saw a couple there, so
Yeah, Olivia's
we'll
was
talk about.
good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Nice.
Oh, there's my little notification. Can you see they're shooting? They're shooting in the studio right now. So every once in a
I
while, I
see
see
the
like a bright
strobe.
flash. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's great to see everybody kind of working and playing. I mean, that's what they're doing right now. They're playing
Yeah.
the 8x10. So it's
The
cool.
video I made for this series that is not in the show
Yeah.
is this has a strobe effect. But I would be worried about giving someone like a seizure.
Yeah, it would be one of those things where I'd have to probably put like a screen in and say, if
Yes.
you're okay with this, pop it up.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing that I'm trying to, be very accessible here. But because I
Yeah.
remember seeing it, it is very like,
It's a lot. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think
So did
that went
you?
great.
Yeah.
That was fun.
I think it went well. It was fun. You and I talked really easily, so I think it
I
could be one of those
know.
things where we just like hop on and chat. But
Yeah, no, it's
yeah,
good.
yeah. So what was? Do you remember Olivia's question there?
I think
Yeah.
she was wondering about the gender divide
Oh yes,
between
yes.
men that do self-portraits and women. And actually, some of my most favorite self-portrait artists are men. Like John Brill, I think I put that in my Instagram takeover, and not very many people know who he is. And he's really cool. And then John Copeland's, I think, is the other one where he took nudes of himself. I think he was like in his 60s. And they're humongous, and they're panels, like 3 or 4 panels. Like those are amazing. Who's the guy who did the Polaroid pulls? Like Andreas. He's from New York. But he did these very experimental Polaroids where you like push around the emulsion and like got these really.
Oh,
Do you know who I'm talking about? I
um,
love him.
Andres
Love him.
Human. No, it's
No.
not him. No.
Gursky?
Anyway,
Andreas Gursky? No, that's the
okay,
guy who does
that's
the
the
big, the, no. So his
yeah.
name is maybe not Andreas.
But yeah.
Anyway, I love him. But yeah, my husband made a joke about how men are allowed to like photograph anyone they want because they feel like they own everything and anything,
Yeah.
and women know that you only have the permission to photograph just yourself. But yeah, I do go out of my way to find male and transgender, all different types of self-portraiture because it does exist. But I think you see more of the women doing self-portrait work, probably because I hate to say it, but like I feel like we're not taken as seriously. And like, since we're looking through the male gaze anyway, like you might as well look at more pictures of women, even though it was the woman who took it herself. I don't know. I feel like it might be a little bit more palatable.
Well, there's a sense of like reclamation, right? That's one thing that we see often
Yeah.
is like you're regaining control. You have control of how the image is being presented. Often
Right.
you're kind of, there's a lot of like going against photographic norms, especially in self-portraiture, and especially, I see that sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think identity might be different between, I don't know. Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know.
I don't have to, as a very kind of straight white looking guy, I'm not, but like, as someone who passes very easily, I don't have to worry about my identity in society. It's already built
Right.
for me,
Right.
the way that I look, act, talk, walk, whatever, it's already cemented. I can kind of get in and get out without
Right.
having to explain or having to do the extra labor to kind of get there. Whereas
Right.
women do, especially women photographers, it can be very difficult.
Yeah.
I've been to situations where a woman who's joining a photo club gets grilled, 10, 20 questions, whereas it's my first time there too. They just figured I knew all about the camera, which I like, I
Yes.
have done it. So
Yes, and that happens
yeah.
so much during school.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of female professors, like I said, at Columbia, so I was really lucky. I had amazing mentors, and one of them, knew she had actually graduated from the place I got my master's, and she was like, well, it was the 70s, and there were just a lot of men. There's a lot of men. There's like not no women teaching there. And she's like, it's probably different now. And then I show up and it was like not different at all. And I often did leave those critiques, like they really grilled me. And the thing is if you do self-portrait work, I feel like you're expected to answer a lot more. And like, I'm already letting you into my private world. Like, I don't understand why that's not legitimate. But like, you can photograph like a river, you know, flowing, and somehow like that is fine, you know? But I think because it kind of gets people going, like I must be doing something right, because at least they're not like, oh, that's lovely, you know? But I don't know. Yeah, it's a really tough one, and I never have figured it out, like why it's so contentious. Like it's so, oh yeah, I don't know. But I don't get taken very seriously. I have to tell you that.
Yeah, I guess there's like the idea that photography has to have social agency, or it has to like make change, or like has to be
and it
very,
is.
and it is, yes.
And that's the thing is like,
yes.
that's the whole reason why I'm using it.
Yeah.
And it is making change, and it's within me. And then somehow like I can let that trickle out and affect other things. So yeah, anyway, that's a very good question, Olivia.
Yeah, very, very good.
One I think about a lot.
Really. I'm going to open it up. You know, if you have questions, post them. If you want to, we'll be here for a little bit, not too much longer. So, you know, don't wait, but definitely post some questions there. But saw something jumped in my head, jumped out again. Did you want to talk about 44.4? We're actually talking about kind of women in self-portraiture and kind of artists. Do you want to talk about 44.4 a little bit?
Yeah, well,
what's that all about? Yeah.
So when I moved to Ottawa, I didn't have a community. So I didn't know anybody. So I thought, for the first time in my life, like, I want to hang out with people, like, not just because I meet them through my son's school or through work. Like, I want to, like, find my people. So I became good friends with another mom who was also an artist, and we were trying to figure out how to work collaboratively. And she's a painter, I'm a photographer, and we just couldn't seem to like figure out a way to come up with a project that was working with our two different aesthetics. But then eventually the idea led to actually like creating some kind of like, not even a support group, but like just a collective for other artists who are also mothers, because we even have like less time to make than women, so like it's hard. And I actually like stopped working for 10 years, basically. Like I worked, I taught, but I didn't make work. So it was like, how do we jumpstart this? How do we keep our hand in it? We have to keep talking to each other about what we're doing, be accountable. It's kind of like, you know, like a diet, you know what I mean? Like it was like that. It was like, you know, like get serious. And so we're really trying right now with a project where we're not, it's not going to be our personal work on these messages that we're going to leave around the city, but it will be our collective sort of like mantra in a way, like just so that people are aware of the fact that we're still trying to like make work and create, but also raise children. Yeah,
someone I know described it that like so much emotional labor that you don't see in artwork happens on the side. You know, you're thinking, you're feeling, you're processing that, and it's hard to also provide emotional kind of support for children. You know, I'm going through kind of parenting classes right now, and it's like, okay, how much emotional kind of support and labor and kind of can you give away, because the kids are going to take it, and that's how they kind of grow and thrive. So how do you also save just a little bit for the artwork that you're making too? It's very challenging, and I think a collective like this is so important, especially in Ottawa, which I find a very family friendly city, very family oriented city.
Totally.
To be like, how do we make this How do I connect to you? Well, let's start a collective, right? Like, let's
Yes.
start something where we're just chatting, talking, seeing who else is out
Yeah.
there. And yeah.
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 Because even in academia, there were not that many other women, especially in photography. Like there's a lot less. There was more now, but then you would notice that like those women were working like twice as hard, and they had no partner often, no children. Like they could only have time to make the work and teach, and that was all that they had. And I mean, I went a different route. I wasn't expecting it to be as hard as it was, and it was. It was very, very challenging. So yeah, so that basically that's what our group is. There's 11 of us, and we have. I'm the only other photographer, like photographer. So if there's anyone out there that would like to apply to work with us, we would love to hear from you.
Yeah. Any artists that are also mothers, 44.4,
Yes.
which is based on the top selling.
Yeah, so the
Yes.
most any piece of art by a female artist was by Georgia O'Keeffe, and it was 44.4 million,
Yeah.
and which is half, really half, even less than half than what, the most, men get. And but the cool thing about Georgia O'Keeffe is that she actually never had children, and she had an affair with Stieglitz, Alfred Stieglitz, the photographer. He was already married with children, and they started having a long-term affair. And he told her that she wanted children, and he told her, no, if you want a career, you can't have children. And so she didn't have children. So that's why we picked that person.
Very cool. Well, what do you think is next? What do you think you're gonna? So you're presenting the show. It's on until November,
Yep.
and then do you have any plans to experiment, play over the next winter? Like we're heading into cold weather and kind of hunkering
Yes.
down. Yeah.
Yeah, so lots of cross country skiing,
Yeah.
but also my husband has moved into my studio space, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
He's a letterpress printer.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping to experiment with letterpress and 19th century printing and combining those two things.
Well, I
So
love
we'll
what
see.
you said. You're an antiquarian avant-garde. I think
Yes.
that's such a fantastic term.
Thanks. That's what I called my class at CMU. It wasn't a 4x5 view camera class. It was the antiquarian avant-garde.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'll do one quick tour left of
Yeah.
the pieces. Just I see a couple faces or a couple names here that didn't join us last time, but I'll do a
Okay.
quick tour. Last chance for questions, and we'll head up again. You can always reach out to me. I'm gallery@spao.ca. You can visit us spao.ca/connect-2-u. Elizabeth's website is raymergriffin.com. We're also both on Instagram. Obviously, you can connect with us there. One of my colleague who helped me with some of these questions, her last question is like, how can we connect to each other? Have we figured out that? And I didn't ask that because it's like, no, we
I
haven't.
know, we have not. I would like to be able to hug my friends. I would love to be able to. And I'm sure the work is going to start reflecting that stuff. Yeah.
I'm very curious to know in the next year or two what we're going to start seeing in terms of work. Like we're going to have to be more of experimental. We're going to have to work more a bit by ourselves and not have as much collaborative. Or how is that collaboration? Or are we going to make work for a screen specifically, which will probably look more like your work here. So
right.
How is it going to really, really change? Or is it? Maybe it's just a pause. Maybe we're just all pausing for a minute. But
yeah.
Anyway. So just a quick in-person tour again, and we'll kind of call it a night. But you can always reach out to us. You can always connect with us. We're here in Ottawa. We're both making work. We're both doing our own thing. Should probably go slower.
That's okay.
Detail.
It's so hard to photograph these. Well, I thank everyone for making it out and watching this.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks, everyone. This is our first.
Yeah.
This is SPAO's first Instagram live. I think it's your first Instagram live.
Yes.
Yeah.
Clearly.
So I do actually really appreciate everyone coming out. It's sad because our events used to be so packed all the time.
I
You know, when
know.
I've been here about a year now, and
Yeah.
it was so fantastic to see a photo community as solid as this, and just to not
Yeah.
have that right now is a little tough, but we're trying our best. All right.
All
Thank you
right.
again.
Thank you,
Yes,
Karen. All
we
right.
will chat later. Yeah.
All right. Take care,
Thanks.
everybody.
Bye.